From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MVW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Oxford Exxon Podcast, Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. We are going to talk about Ole Miss's Media Day yesterday. Met with a good many players as well as Matt Luke and the rest of the coaching staff inside the Manning Center yesterday. So we'll give some impressions from that. We'll talk about a few different storylines, content upcoming, and we're going to do a little cross-promotion today. If you'll find in the Oxford Krystal Beer Garden feed, there's an interview with Chris Landry. It's 48 minutes of nothing but football. We're going to pull out the Ole Miss portion. We're going to give you that on this here podcast because obviously more people listen to this show than the other ones, but you should listen to the other ones too because you're going to get a wealth of football, but we're going to whet your appetite a little bit with the Ole Miss portion. So coming up in a little bit, we'll get that Chris Landry segment here on the podcast. It's brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. When you're coming in for the weekend, stop on over. Get some ribs, get a daiquiri, $3.99 for the smallest, 44 ounces for the largest. Got a lot of different flavors for you there. You can get ribs, you can get lunch specials. I've got yard people outside my window right now, and my dogs are having a panic attack. It's okay, it's all good. We'll get to Master Cuts here in a little bit. But ribs, lunch specials, and more, and save some money at the pump with the Speed Pass Plus app, the mobile rewards program, and more. And again, in the Clark Ford studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. Call Corey Clark today. That number, ask for a quote on a Ford vehicle that you're interested in. F-150, Expeditions, Explorers, whatever the case may be. He'll get you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. And after that, it's up to you. You can let it be a baseline for you moving forward, or you can do what I've done 3 times now, and it's what I'll do every time from now on, and that's get into a Clark Ford. You're going to love the product. It's a great product. You're going to really love the way they treat you after the sale. Their service is just different, and I don't mean just going in and getting an oil change and stuff. They go out of their way to help you. They did it for me yesterday with Campbell's car. Obviously, she's leaving for college here soon. We're all nervous about it and all that stuff because we're parents, and wanted to make sure that her car's in great shape. She was doing oil change. They took it in. They checked it out. They gave it a full diagnostic. Everything was good, changed an air filter and all that stuff, and she's ready to go, and it's peace of mind. And you just don't get that from every car dealer, but you get it from Corey. He's been great to us. He's been great to this site. He's been great to our podcast network. So if you're in the market for a vehicle, at least give him a call and get a quote. We would appreciate it. He would too. 662-257-1900.
So we met with a good many Ole Miss coaches and players yesterday. You can find one story up here. You can find some Matt Luke quick hits and more coming. I'm going to write about Jerry and Ely today and more. Lakia Henry mentioned on the site. So a lot there, a lot more coming as August camp. I'm going to go with August camp is officially here. And
lots of Cruton up too. Lots of Cruton.
Lots of Cruton. There was a flip right this week. Did I get that right?
We had a flip that I think pretty much saw it coming last weekend. I mentioned it was funny. No one picked up on it. I mentioned that Jakevion Brown was at Ole Miss last week, the Mississippi State commitment. He did not want to do any media. Someone immediately said, "Well, can I get your picture?" And I had to remind that person that's media. He did not want to do any media at all, but it was worth noting that he was in Oxford and not Starkville, and sure enough, a few days later, he does the flip. So there's a thing up about his flip. There's a soft verbal, and I just put up a kind of a notebook, if you will, on a story on Antonio Harmon and Jarquez Hunter, a pair of top juniors that are big Ole Miss targets, and they were the 2 juniors who were at Ole Miss's elite recruiting festivity thingy last Saturday. So a lot of Cruton up on the site if you want to read, if you want to listen, or if you like both. It's all there.
I had 2 main takeaways from Matt Luke yesterday. One is, as we expected, some comfort for him now in his in his third camp. Second, that he has had the entire time to prepare for. And I thought that we saw this at Media Day. We even saw this in the spring a little bit. The normalcy that is now, at least on this program. They can go to a bowl game. They have 85 scholarships. Everything is at least even from that standpoint. The cloud from that standpoint has finally lifted. And I thought Matt just seemed more at ease. I thought that, there's obviously the pressure, the excitement of all that stuff from a season. But I did think that he felt like he was just running a normal college football program after some time where it was not a normal college football program. And that's a good thing for everybody. It gives the players, the coaches incentive. It makes everybody feel a little better heading into camp. And then the second thing, and it's an area that he knows well from his time, I thought that every 2 seconds something about the offensive line came up. We know Alex Givens is out, or at least limited throughout most of August camp. He is, we'll say, questionable for the Memphis game at this point, simply because it's so early. It's a month away. They're hopeful that he will play there, but it was a back surgery. He hurt it in June. They tried to look at different options, figure out which one was the best one, and this is the one that had the best chance of getting him the healthiest, the quickest, if you will, and then that puts the opener in some jeopardy, but they expect him to play if it all goes well. And then Darius Thomas, as we mentioned yesterday, has a heart condition. They're going to keep him on the 110, so they're going to keep him as an active member of the roster and then hope for the best in September. They'll reevaluate at that point. But as you look through it, they've got some redshirt juniors. They've got guys that don't have a lot of experience. They're rotating around a little bit. Royce Newman can play tackle or guard. You've got Michael Howard, a guy who's just struggled to gain weight. You and I do not know that issue, but Michael Howard certainly does. He's finally up to about 285. They think that he can give them some reps on the offensive line, and he has to give them reps on the offensive line. It's just such a thin, inexperienced skeleton crew that we're going to talk about this every day. I know we're already being somewhat repetitive even as the first day of camp really gets going. But I don't know the answer here other than they need a lot of luck and they need some breaks, because as Matt kept talking, Michael Howard was the positive. The rest of it just said, man, they really need some help right now.
Yeah, Nick Broker's going to have to play. I talked to Nick yesterday. We'll have it up on the site over the course of the next 3 days. Obviously, 10 Thoughts will have a lot of football in it. He's going to have to play. He looked good. Just sitting there talking to him, he looked like a lot more college ready than he did when I saw him back in the winter on his visit. He's put some weight on. He looks good. We'll see. I talked to Jack Bicknell about it. There's a lot of teaching that has to be done. There's a lot of refining that has to be done. There's a lot of coaching that has to be done. And I said, you ever played this many young guys? And he kind of thought about it, and he was like, no, not really. But, said we started a freshman at left tackle at Boston College, and it worked. He goes, Ole Miss has done this, with young guys before, and it worked. And he's right. And everybody goes, well, these guys aren't Greg Little.
Yeah, Matt mentioned 3 yesterday. He mentioned Javon Patterson, Laramie Tunzel, and Greg Little.
Yeah.
3 really good football players.
3 really good football players, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a seventh-round pick. 3 drafted players. By the way, thoughts remain with Javon Patterson as he gets over the knee injury. Hopefully he gets an opportunity to have an NFL career. He's one of the favorite kids I've ever covered.
Yes.
Anyway, it's good. We're going to find out. I talked to someone inside the program yesterday. You and I talked about this. I'm going to share it. I'm not going to name names. It's not necessary. Who was a little, almost kind of flabbergasted that everyone was just now noticing, if you will, the offensive line's a rebuild. And he said, are people just now noticing this? And I said, I kind of think so. I think the reality of it is just now kind of setting in. Here's the deal. We're going to say this a lot. And this is not me bracing you for what's to come or telling you should handle it or you shouldn't, or you should accept it or you shouldn't. Those are all you decisions. This is the year that the bill comes in, as you said. This is the year that the bill comes in. This is the year that you go to the doctor and he says to you, hey, Joe, you're too damn big. You've got some issues. We've got to do something about it. and he puts you on a diet and he puts you on an exercise program, and it's no fun. Now, does it mean that you don't have immediate success with your weight loss and suddenly you feel better about yourself and suddenly the workouts and the running and stuff become fun, and before you know it, you love it, right? That happens. And for some people, it's a real slog. We're going to find out. But this football program, this is the year, whether you want to do the credit card analogy or you want to do the weight loss analogy, whatever it is, this is the no fun year, if you will. The bill has come in, and the option of, hey, let's just get another credit card is no longer there. You got to pay the bill. You got to lose the weight or suffer the consequences. So this is that year that and the offensive line is an example of it. Someone said, hey, why didn't they recruit more JUCOs? Because that's not how you fix this. Why didn't they get more grad transfers? Well, number one, there weren't many good ones on the market. Number two, everybody wanted the good ones. You're not working in a vacuum. It's out there. You got to go with what you've got. They're going to have to play these kids. They're going to have to play young guys. Royce Newman has to be good. Nick Broker has to come in and play well. Bryce Matthews has to be ready to go. I talked to him yesterday. You know, he's getting ready at tackle. He knows he could play guard if need be. He knows he might have to play center. This is the year that Eli Johnson needs to stay healthy. There's a lot there. There's a lot of ifs, and maybe it all works out. I can tell you, having talked to them, they're all pretty motivated. There's a chip on their shoulder. And so sometimes that ends up really working out. Or they could have guys who are injury prone get injured, and all of a sudden it's a really young, inexperienced offensive line that is paying dues. And that's not the best equation in the world when you have a redshirt freshman quarterback who's backed up by nothing but true freshman quarterbacks. You know, I talked to Rich Rodriguez yesterday. He said, hey, at some point this year, a true freshman quarterback is going to take snaps. He's going into a camp with a lot of rep stuff in his mind. I've got to make sure he's got two things. He's got to make sure he gets his starter ready to roll. And he knows, hey, I got to get at least one and probably two of these true freshman quarterbacks ready to play. There's a lot of reps that have to be distributed. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this camp because Matt Corral could get hurt. I mean, that's worst case scenario, but there's no place you can go and go, hey, I want to get a guarantee today that my starting quarterback won't get hurt. No place to go by that. So he's got to get other people ready to go. There's a lot there. This is the year, like it or not. It's one of the reasons I find the season to be one of the most intriguing that I've covered in a long time. This is the year that the bill has to get paid.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that it can't go well. It just means this is the bottom of the barrel, if you will, on what this looks like. This is it.
This is what happens when whoever you want to blame compliance, blame them. You want to blame Hugh Freeze, blame him. You want to blame Barney Farrar, blame him. You want to blame Tyner, blame him. Blame whoever the hell you want to blame. But the NCAA, Steve Robertson, whoever you want to blame, whatever combination thereof, whatever came from all of that, this is it now. This is the ramifications. They struggled to recruit into the face of that, as any program would have. They had sanctions. They had a two-year bowl ban. That's the stuff that kills you on the recruiting trail. And so they are where they are today. And frankly, the debt cycle to pay this off, frankly, is a 2-year deal. Because they're going to be young again next year.
Yeah, I think next year is a little better.
I do too, but still young.
Yeah.
I mean, all these kids that they're signing in this class right now, a lot of those kids are going to have to come in and play.
And the current freshman class, sure as heck, has got to play as sophomores.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got
to play in 20. Yeah, period.
Yeah.
If they can't play in 20, you got to process them out and bring other guys in. It's simple as that.
Ooh.
I mean, that's where they are. If you can't,
and that's
play,
pretty instant gratification. I mean, we usually talk about how that shouldn't necessarily be the case.
Yeah, but I think it kind of is right now. You got to have, maybe not everybody. There's still some guys that you could develop, or if it's year 3 before they really help you, that's cool. But some of the other, you're going to have an impactful class. These kids that are currently freshmen and the kids that are coming in, but they're building, as we saw with getting Jarkevian Brown yesterday. They're signing one hell of a football class.
They are just
quickly putting together a really good class.
The seniors on this team, just if you're curious, I mean, we're way ahead, but just for the thought of it, as we talk about it being a 2-year process, guys, they are for sure losing at the end of this season. Kadir Shepard, Benito Jones, Alex Givens, Michael Howard, Josiah Coatney. I'm just reading ones that are overly relevant. Austrian Robinson, Scotty Phillips, Willie Hibbler, Miles Hartsville, Octavius Cooley, Montrell Custis, whenever he's healthy. He's not 100% yet, but he's a little limited at the moment. Jason Pellerin's going to have to play. That's it. Oh, and Vernon Dasher. Those are it.
I mean, that's
a lot of dudes.
It's a lot of dudes.
It's a lot of dudes. A lot of defensive dudes on a defense that's already kind of, we'll see.
Yeah. It's a lot of dudes. I'm just telling you, I get the question, hey, do you dread football season? And I'll be honest, there have been football seasons that I've dreaded. I'm kind of interested in this one. And I mean, I don't mean that will not affect my coverage. I've dreaded seasons where I dreaded the season throughout the season and my coverage was fine. I could cover a football season in my sleep. But I'm kind of, on a personal, professional level, intrigued to see how this goes.
He was keeping it local for his audience, so I'm not necessarily making fun. And you can watch the video at rebelgrove.com. During Matt's press conference yesterday, that Memphis TV guy really wanted to talk about the Tigers yesterday.
Yeah, he did.
Like 3 questions in a row. It's like, are you excited about the rivalry? It's like, oh my God. Like, I don't know who's going to win the game, but you're a group of 5 opponent.
Memphis is a unique market.
If Ole Miss is really your rival, then Ole Miss is really in bad shape. That's the answer.
Yeah, like some people.
Your rival's like Tulane or somebody. Have at it.
Jalen Jones called him little brother or whatever, and it's like,
okay.
I mean, nothing that he said was wrong.
And that's not going to decide the game on August 31st because somebody made a comment.
I mean, Chris Landry said, when you play Memphis, it's one of the reasons I don't think Ole Miss should play Memphis. There's nothing to gain.
Well, and they tried to kind of screw with them about the whole basketball side of this, which was supposed to be a football-basketball thing. I mean, it was more Pastner's fault at the time, but, I mean, that was not an easy scheduling situation.
Yeah, if I'm Ole Miss, I go ahead and if they're not going to come to the Pavilion every other year,
I'm not even thinking about playing you in football.
Yeah, then I'm done.
I'll go play Tulane and give my fans a New Orleans trip.
Hell yeah.
That's what I'll do.
Schedule a cupcake.
The Power 5 thing changes it a little bit because you're going to have some road games. If that, before that Power 5 thing was in play, I would have just set a home and home in Tulane and played them every single year, and I'd gone to New Orleans the year I don't go to Baton Rouge. That's what I've done.
Oh, and that'd be a great plan.
Every year you're going to go to Baton Rouge or New Orleans, and we're going to set it where you go to Tulane the year you don't go to LSU. Now, you can't do that as much now because of this. It changes things. But
I might want Willie Fritz to get the hell out of there before I booked him too much. He's pretty good.
He is good. He's good.
But,
they popped Memphis last year.
Yeah, I don't – this whole Memphis thing, whatever. I mean, Jalen Jones is right. Chris Landry's right. I mean, if Ole Miss beats Memphis, now we locally will get it and go, hey, you know what? That's a pretty good win. But nationally, people go, SEC team beat a group of 5 team. Next.
Yeah.
No one notices. No, and for Ole Miss this year, that doesn't matter.
It's like last year. I mean, nobody perked up and went, oh, my God, when Drew Lock lit Memphis up like a Christmas tree.
Right. The whole national respect thing this year,
Win 6 games.
Just win some games. Now, if Memphis happens to open in the top 25 and you get a win, get a top 25
The USA poll, they were 37.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get in the AP top 25.
Yeah, they were USA Today coaches poll. They were 37. Also, Ole Miss did get a vote from a coach.
Huh?
Yeah, 1 vote. I don't know who.
Be hard for me to put them in the top 25.
I get it.
obviously.
So anyway, we'll continue football talk in a second. First, tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting and understands your market, a leader in condo financing in Oxford and the float down option. Also, rates are as low as they've been in about 2 years, so maybe it's time to refinance. Maybe it's time to purchase. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com.
It's Friday, so forgive me at 8:40 in the morning when I'm already thinking about what I might have to drink tonight. Speaking of, the Pappy package at Blue Delta Jeans is something you ought to be interested in. We talked about it when they first rolled it out. I want to remind you about Blue Delta's awesome new offering. It's the Pappy package. Get a few close friends together to celebrate an anniversary or even a company milestone, and Blue Delta will come and set up and bring a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle with them. A minimum order of 15 jeans, and you'll get a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 15-year aged bourbon to accompany a private group fitting at your location, however intimate you choose. For more details or to schedule a time for the team from Blue Delta to come get you measured and bring the libations, email info, INFO, at bluedeltajeans.com. Podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got a complete selection of new and privately owned Nissan, new and previously owned, privately owned too. Nissan vehicles, if you're in the market for one, that's the place to go get it. Great lease deals as well. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Got a soft verbal up on the site. The soft verbal is brought to you by Dead Soxy. The hot weather's here. You can, with that comes the inevitable debate of sock or no sock with your loafers. You can save your feet and your shoes from making their own impression by stepping into spring with some no-shows from Dead Soxy today. You really need to experience the difference a quality sock makes. Go to deadsoxy.com, enter the code Rebel Grove at checkout. You get 30% off all orders, including the sale items, including the no-shows that are the same quality you already love and enjoy with Dead Soxy's traditional dress sock. deadsoxy.com. Check out the no-show collection. Remember to enter the promo code Rebel Grove at checkout for 30% off all orders. And you don't want to miss 1 minute of the action at the Vault this season as Ole Miss football arrives next month in September. Reserve your season tickets with the new 2019 season ticket pricing for just $299. For more information, visit OleMissTix.com. That's OleMissTix.com.
So, I mean, look, just a little advice here. But as someone who has covered an NCAA investigation for a bit during my career, North Carolina State yesterday, see this? They did a lot of different methods to roll into their season. It was kind of like their Twitter thing. Like they had a guy come in on a scooter. I think the FedEx truck brought a dude in. One of them borrowed the Zamboni from the Carolina Hurricanes. And then you had a cat that came in a Rolls Royce. Look, you're not North Carolina. You're not Duke. We've already seen where they're going to pop your basketball program because they're pissed at the Tar Heels. Probably ought to keep the Rolls Royce photo off the internet when you got a guy coming into camp. Just a suggestion, just a little helpful tip. Just saying.
Who's more tone deaf, them or Liberty yesterday?
Oh, them. Yeah.
They're tone deaf, yeah. One's just creepier than the other.
Yeah,
they're more tone deaf.
There had to be some dude in Liberty Media Relations, and again, whatever, that goes, hey, Hugh, let's not ask about the guy's mom. Just saying. Can we not? Thank you. That'd be great. Appreciate that.
Let's ask about the parents, not mom.
Yeah, how's your family doing?
Yeah. Or how's your mom and them?
Yeah.
Just add something. How's your brother?
Because I don't know him. I mean, we thought we might know him there at one point. But, I mean, you got to think at one point Dave Doran went, really, guys? Come on. Was that overly necessary?
Yeah. They're on our campus.
Yeah.
Let's just
get him in a convertible, okay?
Or just don't do it. Let's just get ready for football season. Hand raise guy, man. I'm telling you.
It should be a major in college.
It really should.
Now, you got to pass an aptitude test like every 6 months to stay in it. But, yes, it should be a major in college.
Just hand raise guy.
Yeah, you should. Every 6 months, you got to go into a conference room where people are talking and be like, okay, we're going to grade you. Stick your hand up every time somebody says something stupid. Okay. Just saying. Give me the setup on how this works. It's been pretty much the same way ever since I've been covering Ole Miss. We went in yesterday, and all the players are in the grill, essentially just at either their own or shared tables, and you just walk around for an hour. So it's pretty quick hit interviews, but I will give some credit yesterday. I sat down with Jerry and Ely for a while. Story up later at rebelgrove.com. And I don't cover recruiting. I haven't talked to Jerry but a few times and never for more than about 2.5 minutes. And we talked for probably 6 yesterday, which was an eternity in that setting. Very impressed. Way he talked about his decision for baseball, football, the way he has really handled adversity, because we're talking about a guy that was the number 6 projected pick a year and a half ago. He admitted that when the draft got here in June, he was more in that comp round, the second round, that nobody got close to the number to make him bypass all of college, that no one really would even pay him the number close to what would be necessary for him to skip college baseball and just play college football. And he has a really good attitude, mentality about the time management coming up. He's going to get a huge help because John Rice Plumlee is going through the same thing, and they can use each other. That's going to be a main point of the story I'm writing. But I don't know. I thought that there was a maturity with Jerry where he understands his opportunities, where he was able to let go of, and not saying he wanted to go pro. That's not the right word. But look, it's an 18-year-old guy who thought he was going to be picked in a position, thought he was going to have a decision to make, and there's disappointment and there's some adversity to overcome with that situation. And I thought that now that it's passed, a little time has gone on, he's got a really good mindset for as he enters his college career.
Yeah, I didn't talk to him because I knew you did, but I kind of overheard him talking to some other people, and he was impressive.
He was the most impressive relative to age person I talked to yesterday.
Yeah, you didn't talk to Nick Broker. I did. He was impressive too.
Okay, yeah, I did not. You appeared to be making the OL rounds, so
yeah, I'm doing an OL story. I talked to everyone that was available except Royce Newman. I ran out of time, or he disappeared. Then I felt bad. Hey, can I drag you back in there?
Yeah,
I've got enough. But yeah, he's impressive. I mean, and look, he has social media. He knows the deal. He knows that at one point people were talking about him having millions of dollars on the table. He got, for lack of a better word, this doesn't always mean a bad thing. You get humbled a little when stuff doesn't work out. And instead of sulking about it, he appears to be kind of embracing the opportunity. I think he wanted to play football. I think there was a point where he thought this baseball thing is going to steer me away from that because, look, let's just say for kicks and giggles, he's a top 5 pick. You cannot walk away from that kind of money. You just can't. I know people say, well, the Oklahoma kid, it's different. It's different. He was in a spot where he could, and even he took the Kyler Murray.
He took the money originally.
He took the money. I mean, let's get this real.
He took the money until he realized he had more money somewhere else.
Yes. Jarian wasn't going to be in that spot if his baseball thing had just exploded. He wasn't going to have a fallback. He was going to have to take the money. And so I'm sure he was thinking about that at some point over the last 18 to 24 months. Come on, he's a human being. So I was impressed with him. I'm looking forward to reading your story. Obviously, I didn't talk to him at length at all. I probably heard 45 seconds of an interview he was doing with somebody else.
I think he was really glad just because of the pressure and the stress and the unknown that it was over. Those are a couple quotes he gave me that I was like, wow, that's the point. It's not even necessarily making the decision. It's just having the decision done and knowing what the crap you're going to do.
Sure.
That's a huge part of this.
The ability
because they're in May. I mean, you're probably so strung out going, hey, I don't know what this next week is or whatever. And I thought the interesting thing, and again, I'm not giving away the whole story. You can read it. But he he mentioned how he knew the weekend before the draft. So the draft's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The first round on Monday, or first and second, 3 through 10 on Tuesday, and 11 through 40 on Wednesday. And he mentioned how his agent or advisor or whatever had told him, hey, we're looking second round, we're looking comp. This doesn't look like your numbers are going to get hit. And he went ahead and drove to Oxford on Sunday. Didn't have to be in Oxford, had no reason to be in Oxford at that point. But he drove up because he said if he's already here, it was so much easier to make the decision and just go, okay, they're not hitting my number. This is what we agreed to do. We're going to go to college and let's do it. And it kind of put him in a little better frame of mind. He said had he stayed in Jackson, it was less real that, hey, I'm going to Ole Miss. So he sort of preemptively got into a spot to allow him to make the best decision.
It's a pretty mature approach.
Yeah, he said he just decided to drive up by himself on Sunday and just be there. So good thought. I was interested. Talked to a lot of players about Matt Corral, his leadership. Talked a lot about wide receivers, about Rich Rod's offense, because he's known as this run tack guy, but he's still going to pitch and catch it and throw it around. So those are some of the content items that will be coming your way, and we get another opportunity on Monday.
Rich Rodriguez gave me a great quote about Corral. And I'll write this at some point. Again, we talked to so many people yesterday. And it hadn't even been 24 hours. He said, you'd rather have to say whoa than sick 'em.
Well, that's a very apt quote for Corral, because I don't think you ever have to say sick 'em.
I don't think you ever have to tell him sick 'em. I think you have to say whoa. But you've got to get him to a place where he listens to whoa. And there's
he's a bit of the wild horse right now, and you got to break it a little.
Yeah,
you like the ability, but
the fuse is always lit. You just kind of have to keep an eye on it, and they do, and they know that. That's part of his process. That hey, look, you can't always have your hair on fire.
I bet Matt Corral didn't throw a lot of balls away in high school.
Probably not.
Utmost confidence. I can fit it in that window. No problem. Here we go.
The stuff right there. Hey, look, get out of bounds.
Yeah.
Get down.
It's 2nd and 8. You ain't got nothing. Throw it away.
Throw it away. We have a punter for a reason.
3rd and 8's a whole lot better than 3rd and 19 and you on the ground.
Yeah. Be smart. Think clearly. Know when, hey, there's a point in the game where you got to go for it, but there's also points in the game where, take the L. Because, hey, this is the SEC. You're going to play against Auburn. You're going to listen to Chris Landry's interview on the Beer Garden. Talks about Auburn's defense. Talks about LSU's defense. Talks about Alabama's defense. Talks about the talent that Texas A&M is putting into place. This is a big boy league. And if Matt Corral is going to be a 4-year starter at Ole Miss or a 3-year starter at Ole Miss, whatever, you are going to have some series, some quarters, some halves, some games where you get humbled. And you've got to be able to move on. You've got to be able to accept that. Next. There's a lot to be said for next. Be able to go to next.
It's why this first game is so big for Matt, because Memphis, look, they're very susceptible. You can score points on Memphis. Let's not act like their defense is even good. It's not. You can score points.
He's not going to face a good defense until Cal.
Yeah, Cal is very fundamentally sound defensively. They're not going to give you a lot of free stuff. So
Chris Landry was very complimentary of Cal's defense. Not their offense, but their defense.
Yeah, Justin Wilcox has done a nice job. So, point being, though, but Memphis is going to come out with all this emotion. It's going to be, it's not the talent, but you know what I'm saying here. It's almost kind of like the mentality of a Vanderbilt baseball team that's trying to get you off your game, trying to screw with you. It's going to be this emotional outburst thing. So right off the bat, Corral's going to have to manage that and go, hey, look, we're more talented on offense than they are on defense. Let's just go score points. Don't get caught up in all of Memphis's crap.
Yeah, you're going
because that's what Memphis is going to try to do at the Liberty Bowl at 11 a.m. They're going to try to muddy it up. They're going to try to make this emotional, make it a fireworks show. Ole Miss just needs to play football.
Yeah, if I'm Norvell, that's my plan. I want to get the young Ole Miss quarterback who the last time he played in a real game was in a fist fight in the end zone. I want to see if I can't get him worked up. I want to get him all fired up where Rich Rodriguez is having to spend most of his time trying to get him to settle the hell down instead of, hey, look, here's what's available. The tight end's right here. Instead of him being a quarterback, I want Rodriguez to have to be a psychologist and not a offensive coordinator. I want to get him worked up. Absolutely, it's my plan. I'm having my defense talk trash to him from minute one. Get him out of his game. Get him out of his head. Because quite frankly, he was not effective against Mississippi State when he was all worked up. He wasn't. Go back and watch it. And Ole Miss's veteran offensive linemen were having to yell at him. People were telling him to shut up. It was not that was a lesson learned. You have to hope if you're Ole Miss. But if you're Memphis, you got to make sure you got to test it and make sure he learned that lesson. Because if he didn't learn that lesson, if I'm Memphis, I want a repeat performance of that. I want that dude losing his mind. Because quite frankly, if he throws a punch, he's out.
If Matt stays composed, Ole Miss wins the football game.
I agree.
That's it. If he doesn't, they lose. My opinion.
You hate to put a whole game on him, but I'm with you. I think
the defense is going to kind of be what it is. I think they're going to give up some points, but Ole Miss is better on offense. There's a bigger discrepancy, Ole Miss offense to Memphis defense than vice versa. Agreed. So if Matt just plays a good game, he's a very talented guy. He can pitch it and catch it and throw it around. They can run it. Scotty's good. Jarian's good. Stay healthy, all that stuff. Yeah, it comes down to Matt Corral not turning the ball over because of emotion.
Yeah, I buy that. Getting so worked up that on 3rd and 13,
you fling one in there and it gets picked and whatever.
Instead of just saying, "Hey, let's there's nothing here. I'm gonna throw it away. Let's punt." Or he tries to on 3rd and 16 and he scrambles and he's got a 10-yard gain, but instead of just, hey, it's going to be 4th and 6, we're going to kick it. No, I've got to get this extra yard, and you end up sticking the ball out and it gets knocked out and returned for a touchdown or whatever. That's the stuff that gets you beat. And we'll see. I don't know. I mean, he seems to have, talking to a bunch of fat sports writers, he seems to have a pretty good mentality going in. But it'll be different when he's got a uniform on and there's referees blowing whistles and fans are in the stands and all that stuff, and his adrenaline is going a gazillion miles an hour through his veins. It'll be a different deal. And he's a redshirt freshman. It's like Rodriguez said that to me yesterday. He goes, I have to remind myself, because of the room that I'm in with Kincaid Dent and Grant Tisdale and John Rice Plumlee and just a bunch of kids, right? He goes, I have to remind myself that this guy's just a redshirt freshman. That this is his first start. I've got to get him ready, but I've got to make sure that I don't overwhelm him. This is not a veteran quarterback.
He feels like a junior just relative to everybody else in the room.
Yeah, well, I thought Matt Luke's answer to this was interesting yesterday. Harry Harrison did for those of us who played before, sometimes you want to look to a leader, and he said, who are those leaders? I'm not picking on Harry. It's just kind of funny. He said Austrian Robinson on defense, which makes sense. He's been there a while, wearing the 38, veteran guy, kids like him, work ethic kind of a guy. And then on offense, he said Matt Corral.
Redshirt freshman.
Who has never started a college game.
And he admitted some of it was position-based, obviously.
Yeah, but it was interesting to me that was the answer.
Because it had been really easy to go, hey, Scotty Phillips, senior.
But Scotty's not a vocal leader type. No. Great kid, but Scotty's not the guy that's...
Well, and you don't have a real vocal wideout. I was talking to Braylon Sanders yesterday, and he was talking about how he's got to be a little more of a leader just because of his age and having AJ and DK and all those guys gone. But he said, I'm a by example guy. I just need to work hard. And I said, well, who's the vocal one? And he kind of stopped for a minute and thought. And he finally said Elijah, but then he goes, it's just kind of different, though. He goes, there's not that guy.
No, I mean, I talked to Jonathan Mingo yesterday. He's super quiet. I mean, I'm concerned that when I go to transcribe it, I'm not going to be able to hear it. And I mean, it was just me and him, and I kept putting the recorder closer and closer. He's not going to be the guy yelling in the meeting room. It probably has to be Corral. Listen, it's the one thing that we talked about besides the offensive line. There is a lot on his plate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. In an ideal world, you have a really veteran offensive line. You've got a couple of veteran receivers. You got a lot of people that can.
And all that policing your offense and leading and all that, that's AJ or somebody's problem.
Or it's something that he grows into.
Yeah, right, of course.
But you're like, hey, and that's why we've been doing it. And I talked to someone inside the program who here's basically what he said. Look, I don't think we're starting 0-2. I think we're going to win games. But if we do, it's not the end of the program. We're just going to keep grinding. You're going to keep going. It's a young team. We're going to keep working. We're going to get better. We're going to keep working. We can't, any more than if you start 2-0, throw a ticker tape parade. Well, we made it. No, you haven't. You're still paying dues. You're still paying. It just hadn't hurt yet.
Go get 3. You got 4 later, and then let's go find 2 more.
Yeah, I mean, just because, let's say they beat Memphis and Arkansas, that does not mean that you have automatic wins against Cal and Vanderbilt. It does not. So we do this a lot, and you and I have done it a lot, so I'm not going to back away from it. These first 2 games are really big. These first 2 games are really big from a fan standpoint. From a program standpoint, I don't think you can approach it that way.
They are from the standpoint of it's the only way to get to 6. If you're going to do the bowl thing and the postseason thing and kind of that deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not changing the program per se.
I can tell you the people inside the program, they're thinking about Memphis, but there's also a long-range view. And they think they're on the right path. And, again, based on the recruiting that's happening right now, I agree with them. I think they're on a great path. But it is a young team, and like we talked about, and they get started in a couple hours, the redshirt freshman quarterback is being asked to do a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, Matt, don't get hurt.
Yeah, we'll comment on that in a second. First, let me tell you about a couple different things. Also, we're going to go to Chris Landry after this. Again, the Ole Miss portion of the Beer Garden is what we're about to play. So if you like it, click on over to the Beer Garden. Go find it, all the places you get the podcast. And then you can go to about the 18-minute mark is where the Beer Garden cuts off from what you're about to hear. So if you like this, go to the Beer Garden, go to the 18-minute mark, and then listen the rest of the way. You'll get about another half hour of football content, college and professional. So we'll get to that in a second. First, about Master Cuts Lawn and Landscape. Premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi, but they do custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces, and much more. Paver patios, forestry mulching, and your dream backyard easier than you think with them. GoMasterCuts.com is the website, or you can get a free quote by calling at 662-607-7773.
Podcast also brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust based in Madison, Mississippi. They represent clients in 24 states. They have advisors in 3 states. They're really talented people. They know what they're doing. They sit down with you. They help you with financial planning. They help you with retirement planning for individuals, for businesses. They help companies with struggling 401k plans. They have the Pinnacle Trust 401k advisory services. There's just a lot there. You can learn more at pintrust.com. That's PINN trust.com. Mention that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. If you're passing through Jackson on work or going to spend a weekend before the summer comes to an end, I highly recommend the Westin Jackson. It's a Marriott property. You can accrue points there. You can use your Marriott rewards points there and have a very peaceful, nice weekend. You can enjoy Soul Spots, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. You can also enjoy Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, where you can sip on a creative craft cocktail Enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch, and everything Chef Caden makes is fantastic. You'll love it at the Westin Jackson. And we're brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. I told you earlier in the week that I'd tell you about some of the trips that you guys have booked, trips that John made really special, something probably Chase would enjoy, a Scotland golf trip for 4 dads and their sons went. They spent 6 nights, played 5 rounds on different courses, including one of the old courses that's a historic course there in Scotland. He's booked honeymoons for some of you guys, 7 nights at a 5-star resort with a hot tub and oceanfront Hawaii view. A lot of you have done some really cool things going through John. I appreciate it. John appreciates it. And if you're interested in doing it, all you have to do is get in touch with him at 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Chris, welcome into the show. I really appreciate you taking some time. I know it's busy and it's about to get even busier, so I appreciate you carving out a little time for us.
Man, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Just love it every time I can, and hopefully we can do it more often. But excited about the football season as I know you are.
Yeah, and I'm as intrigued by the team that I cover. Look, I know I'm not covering a championship team. It's an Ole Miss program that is still very much kind of walking away from the wreckage of the NCAA stuff and all the Hugh Freeze scandal and all of that. But this is an intriguing year. We're not having to write about bowl bans. There is some consistency within the program. It's Matt Luke's 3rd season. He's got Rich Rodriguez as his offensive coordinator, Mike McIntyre as his defensive coordinator. They're back to full strength from a scholarship standpoint, although it is a really young team that is super thin in some spots. I want to start here, and then we'll backtrack a little bit. Ole Miss has a funny start to their schedule, Chris. They open with Memphis on the road, and then they get Arkansas at home in Week 2, September the 7th. They get Southeastern Louisiana in Week 3. They get California at home in Week 4. They go to Alabama, and that's a loss. And they get Vanderbilt at home in Week 6. So there's a scenario where they get off to a really good start that gives them an opportunity to get to 6 wins. And there's a scenario where some of those games, Memphis, Arkansas, Cal, all losable games, where they lose all or some of those games. Getting to 6 is impossible, and the mood around the program, around the fan base, is real negative. So I'll start here. I'm going to get your thoughts on Ole Miss in a minute. I want to start off by getting your thoughts on Memphis and Arkansas. What do you look for from those two teams, especially early in the season?
I think both are really good. I think Memphis is one of the best G5 teams. I think they've got speed. I think they've got a great chance against Ole Miss. And I think it's one of those games that you don't like if you're Ole Miss. Because if you win it, I think people, Ole Miss fans, and regionally, and everyone that follows it knows that's going to be a really good win. But nationally, not that it really matters what people think, but that's going to be one of those, you're a Power 5 team. You should beat a Group of 5 team. And you should. But where this Ole Miss team is and right now and where this Memphis team is right now, that team has got a great chance to beat Ole Miss. If Ole Miss is able to win that, that's a great win. Arkansas game is there's no doubt in my mind that in terms of a roster, those are the 2 leanest looking rosters in the West. And that will probably determine just what you said, whether they can get to 6, go to a bowl, or whether this is going to be a really down year. Because if you don't win those games, the only 2 games that I can tell you that you're going to win for certain is Southeast Louisiana and New Mexico State. Yeah. And everything else is, look, Cal doesn't have much of an offense, but they're pretty good defensively. You get, 2 out of 3 to start the season, and then you go to Cal, you just listen. 2-2, 3-1 would be 3-1 would be just peachy, and almost more than I can ever hope for Ole Miss. 2-2 gives them a shot to win. But listen, you're right. Not going to beat Alabama, not going to beat LSU, not going to beat Auburn, not going to beat A&M. You just don't match up. And here's the thing. Probably folks will realize it during the season, but Ole Miss fans may or may not, I don't know, realize it, that Missouri's quite a bit better than Ole Miss. And unless they come back and have some injuries, that's a very, very unlikely win. And Vanderbilt has a trifecta of playmakers. I mean, look, there's only 3 teams that I tell you, 2 with 100% certainty that Ole Miss has better talent: Southeast Louisiana and New Mexico State. I think Ole Miss is a tad better than Arkansas at this point as a roster. Memphis is questionable, but I mean, I think that Ole Miss certainly can match up in some areas and others not as much. So that to me are like must wins if you're going to get to a bowl game. And then, Cal could be the possibility of a 5th one. And then, maybe something happens outside of beating Arkansas if they can do that to get you to 6. But I think getting to 6 is going to be tough. I think it's going to be really tough. I think it's more like 4 or 5. I've got real concerns about the Rebels. Obviously, they're replacing a lot of big play guys on offense. I like Matt. I like what he's doing, but it is tough to make up ground. If you're Arkansas, you're Ole Miss, good luck. Yeah, you can get top 20 recruiting classes nationally. That's good enough to put you 6th or 7th in the SEC West. I mean, everybody else was recruiting better. I like the confidence level and the lack of ego to go out and hire Rich Rodriguez and Mike McIntyre. Those guys are not going to be at Ole Miss long. They're looking for their next opportunity. Are they going to be good enough on one side of the ball to where, if they're successful, then that's good for Mac. If they're not successful, then they're probably all gone. I mean, so I don't know what type of their stability, but I don't know going forward what type of stability. I think they had more explosive potential last year, but I think they've got the potential to be a little bit better in the running game, but they don't match up personnel-wise to most people. So it's going to be quite a bit of an upset I don't see them going on the road and beating at Auburn or beating at LSU or beating at A&M. Vanderbilt, Missouri, Mississippi State, yeah, it's possible, likely, probably not.
You've been around Rich Rodriguez a lot. You've seen him at Tulane. You've seen him at West Virginia, at Michigan, at Arizona. I mean, he's a guy that's got a ton of coaching experience. He is undoubtedly a brilliant offensive mind. What do you expect from him with this team? It's a very thin offensive line. It's a talented but completely unproven quarterback in Matt Corral, who's backed up by nothing but true freshmen. I mean, Matt Corral's not started a game. The kids behind him have never even played in a game at quarterback. That's what's on their roster. Freshman. That's and a junior at quarterback. How about that? I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. So what do you kind of they've kept everything kind of under wraps, which I think is the smart thing to do because they don't have a lot of advantages going into the season, and secrecy is one. So what if you're kind of looking ahead to that Ole Miss-Memphis game, what do you anticipate Ole Miss's offense looking like? Because obviously it's going to be a far cry from the Phil Longo system they've run the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be tempo. It's going to be fast. They're going to want to get to the line of scrimmage quickly. They're going to want to get defenses misaligned. They want to be able to snap the ball before they can get aligned up defensively. That is a way to camouflage maybe limitations on the offensive line, let's call it. Maybe to crease people. Listen, I mean, to some degree, without the talent, what Gus Malzahn likes to do over at Auburn. Just tempo, fast, get you misaligned. And, that is going to be what they're going to do. Love Scotty Phillips. I'm just tickled, pink that Ely's going to focus on football selfishly. I think they can be a pretty good running team. That's what Rich likes to do, and I think what he's going to do and be forced to do here is to be able to run the football. And then with that, then they're going to force numbers into the box, and then it's going to be a little bit easier for the passing game for Matt to have success. And they don't have the guys that they just can line up, throw the ball to, win 50-50. The proven guys that we all know, the great talent they had at receiver, that they don't have those guys. Although I think there are a couple of guys that are going to be really good. They just don't have the proven entity there. So I think you're going to see fast and tempo.
Defensively, Ole Miss was abysmal the last couple of years, just awful most of last year. Couldn't get lined up right, eyes in the wrong place, fundamentally unsound. How much – it's a lot of the same guys back this season that played in that. How much of a difference realistically, in your opinion, can Mike McIntyre make? They're switching to a 3-4.
Yep.
He's obviously going to be an upgrade as a technician defensively, as a strategist defensively. How much of a difference can all of that make when a lot of the talent is basically the same?
Well, it's going to be tough. I think it could make a difference, but not a substantive difference, because I think from a personnel standpoint, there's going to be limitations. But here's what I like about it. I think that going to a 30 front, I think it fits the personnel, at least on the front end. Depth-wise, that's where I worry a little bit. And I worry, even the elite defenses in today's offenses, you get paced and you see the Alabamas of the world all of a sudden can't function all that well when they're on the field for snap 85 as opposed to 65. So I worry about depth. But I do think they have some players that I think are really good players on the defensive side that can be differences and difference-making type guys. I think that they're going to be much better from a gap control standpoint, not missing gap, pursuit of angles. I think that's going to be better. But the overall speed and playmaking ability on defense, I think there's limitations there. I don't know how else to put it. I think that's real. I don't think that's gonna change. But listen, I think they've got a couple of tackles that can play, and I think they got a couple of linebackers that can play. I think they'll be better, but I don't know again how much it's going to show up on the record book. I think the challenges early against Memphis is going to be, in their speed and what they can do in the run game, going to be a challenge. Then Arkansas, listen, they're in his second year over there. They're going to try to spread out a little bit. That'll be a different look, And I think with Cal, they're not very good offensively, so you got a chance to be successful through the first 4 weeks to some degree, to get a feel for what you can do and what you can't do. And then, of course, I'm going to bypass Alabama for a second and just say, all right, let's see how you can handle Vanderbilt, which is doable, and then Missouri with their offensive line, great tight end, great back, A&M and Jimbo. That's where it's going to start to get difficult. And then Auburn, and then LSU, that's where it's going to be a real challenge, I think, over the back end of the season.
I want to stay on Arkansas for just a minute. Ole Miss is going to see them early. I'm going to be in Fayetteville in a couple of weeks, so I'm kind of curious. Who do you think the quarterback is going to be there? Is it Hicks or is it Starkel? I know he's more familiar with Hicks from the SMU days. Starkel, probably a little more talented quarterback. What do you anticipate there?
I would be surprised if it's not Hicks to start, because he can really run. That offense is about decision-making, quick decisions at the line of scrimmage. And I really just think it depends upon Starkel's progression and how quickly that is. But Hicks makes the most sense for what they're going to do and how they're going to do it early. That's kind of how I see it. But I do recognize Starkel's ability, and what they've got to get is more consistency there. They're starting to recruit playmakers in space pretty well. They don't have enough on defense yet. But on offense, here's where I see what Chad potentially could do. Not now, not even 2020, but if everything goes right, meaning if he's able to recruit similarly, the ceiling for Chad at Arkansas is to be what Hugh did at Ole Miss. Great offense, spread you out, cause you a lot of problems, recruit at an elite level, if it can do what Hugh did there. Now, the difference is Hugh got some big war daddies on defense, and they combined that offense with some pretty good defensive teams, as you know. Arkansas is not there yet. And, I'll talk about, and I love Chief, but, John Chavis is a press man, play the run with numbers, and he's pretty good coordinator at LSU and at Tennessee when they had a lot of talent. He's not very good when he's got to adjust what he wants to do because he's not very eclectic in his defensive view. So they're not going to be very good. Acom is a really good player, but they don't have much there. So I think Arkansas is intriguing. I don't think they're better or worse than Ole Miss. It's why I'm really excited about that September 7th game, almost from I don't want to call it a train wreck look, but to me, that game is going to tell you who's likely going to finish last in the West. And maybe who might have some hope to, this season. The loser's probably going to be in trouble.
Yeah, because, Arkansas opens the season with what? Sam Houston. They're going to get a win there, and then they go to
Portland State.
Portland State, yeah, and they'll get a win there. They'll beat Portland State. And then they get Ole Miss. If they win that game, it's the part of predicting that is impossible, right? Because like we talked about Ole Miss a minute ago. Let's just play kicks and giggles for a minute. Ole Miss goes to Memphis and finds a way to win. They come home and they beat Arkansas somehow, some way. Then you beat Southeastern Louisiana, and now all of a sudden there's a little pep in everybody's step and a little confidence, and some guys are really believing the coaches now. And when the coaches tell them, "Hey, here's what we got to do," the kids are thinking, "You know what, man? This guy's a little crazy, and sometimes I don't really like him, but he seems right." And everybody loves winning. Winning is a cure-all. And so you win, and then Cal comes in, and the place is packed, and you win a fourth quarter game against Cal, and again, I'm doing roses and flower petals right now. And then you go to Tuscaloosa and you lose, but you knew you were going to lose, and it wasn't a big deal. Maybe it wasn't as bad as you thought. You lose by 24 points, and you get back on the bus and you go, we knew we weren't winning that game, and the coaches are immediately going, "Hey, Vanderbilt, we're turning the page to Vanderbilt, and you come back and you beat Vanderbilt. You're 5-1 at the turn. New Mexico State still on the schedule, and now even though no one says it out loud, you go, "Hey, we're bowl eligible."
It's a different world.
Everything's a free shot now. And
well,
so,
and
you know what I mean? And the flip side of that is you lose some games. And for Arkansas, it's kind of the same boat because they're going to beat Portland State. And then if they come to Oxford and win one, well, they wake up the next morning. They're 2-0. They've got an SEC win, starting to feel a little better about things. It's the psychological benefit of getting off to the good start that it starts to – don't get me wrong, it doesn't negate the fact that, hey, we don't have enough defensive players to win consistently in this league, but you do get guys start playing over their heads a little bit. You get hot, you get momentum, and you know what I mean? It's that.
Right. And, well, I think both Arkansas and Ole Miss, it is not out of the question that both can't. Either could start 4-0. Now, I would submit to you that Ole Miss's path is a little more difficult because Memphis is better than Colorado State and San Jose State, and Cal is a really good defensive team, very underrated, probably a lot better than most people know. Whereas, now I know Arkansas just blew the game against Colorado State last year. That was a disaster. They got to win that, got to win San Jose State and Portland State. So, I think Arkansas is either 4-0 or 3-1, and that the differentiation is going to be the Ole Miss game. Whereas Ole Miss, I agree with you. I think that could go a number of different ways. I don't see them going 4-0, but it is not out of the question. I hope that it's not a case where they lose to Memphis, they get beat at Arkansas, and you could be looking at a 1-3 start. And that would be
that's your nightmare. That's
exactly right. But that they've got their hurdles are a little bit more. It's a little bit tougher than Arkansas, because Arkansas, I think, shame on them if they're not 3-1. They should be 3-1. And if they can beat Ole Miss, they're 4-0. That's what they should be to start the season. Whereas Ole Miss, I can't sit there and tell you that they should beat Memphis, Arkansas, and Cal. I think there's a really good chance, but I wouldn't say the should part, because I think Cal's got a little better defense than Ole Miss. I think Arkansas is comparable, and I think, Memphis is really good. I'm comfortable in saying I think Ole Miss has got a really good shot, but there's only one game in that first four that I can say absolutely mark it down. You're beating Southeast Louisiana. The rest of them, I would be really impressed. Whereas with Arkansas, I'd be impressed with the Ole Miss win, but I have an expectation that you should be able to take care of business in the other three.
Thanks to Chris for giving us some time. Again, the rest of that interview there on the Beer Garden, brought to you by Oxford Krystal. So you can find that. One more time, skip to about the 18-minute mark of that podcast to listen to the rest as they delve into the SEC and NFL seasons.
Mostly Chase, it's SEC West. It's a lot of Arkansas, a lot of LSU, a lot of Auburn, some Alabama. We talk about Texas A&M a little bit. We talk about Georgia some. Mention Missouri. A little NFL at the end, some Saints. He's high on the Bears. We talked about the Chiefs a little bit. So there's some NFL stuff, but it's mostly SEC West. If you like college football, it's a really good listen. And it's just Chris talking. It's not me.
Podcast brought to you in part by G&M Pharmacy there in Oxford on South Lamar. They deliver local in the Oxford area to your home or workplace. They also offer MedSync to fill your prescriptions the same day of the month, every single month. Make it easy on you. One delivery, one pickup. They care about you. Find ways to help you out along the way. You can transfer your medications. You can find out more about sildenafil, CBD oil, and everything else that they offer. That is 662-236-2222, or go straight to the website gandmpharmacy.com. Click product request and request a prescription right there online.
Podcast also brought to you by Harry Alexander. He's an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He's a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 0.7 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square, conveniently located east of North Lamar. You can check out the model home at 215 William Street. These homes have wonderful layouts, impeccable finishes. You can see all of that at the model. Get in touch with Harry. Look at the model. Get more information about this great new development while units are still available. SavannahSquareOxford.com or 662-801-5621. Podcast also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB offers its customers the absolute best checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. They also offer a commercial checking account, now paying 1% interest as long as you keep $10,000 in the account. It comes with fully interactive online banking. To learn more, go to liveoxford.bankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And we're brought to you by 7 South Tailgating. 7 South is the premier tailgating service provider at Ole Miss. They offer your standard tailgating services such as tent, table, and chair breakdown and all that, but they offer so much more. They'll set up, break down, and store your own personal gear, or you can rent the gear from them. They offer cooler, ice, beverage services, TV, satellite generator service, storage bins for supplies and decor, chandeliers, tablecloths, plates, napkins, basically anything and everything you could possibly want at your tailgate. So call or go online today for a detailed quote customized to your specific needs, 662-321-1682, or visit 7southtailgating.com.
So I would like to have had Sean McVay's blood pressure. I saw a couple days ago that he had to stop practice with the Rams multiple times during their practice because they were doing 11-on-11 drills, and Jared Goff was knocked to the ground multiple times.
Yeah, I'd lose my mind.
He gets knocked to the ground, they stop practice, they start back, and within 20 minutes, he's knocked to the ground again, and they had to stop practice again for him to yell at them.
What are they thinking?
I mean,
these are professionals. You can't hit the quarterback in practice, especially not that quarterback.
And depending on who it is, you might get cut right there.
Yeah.
Some rookie just hanging around, you're gone. I mean, you look at Aaron Donald and go, hey, dude, what the hell are you doing? But
yeah, I mean, you can't fire Aaron Donald, but you say, Can we stop and talk for just a minute, guys?
I don't know. It cracked me up. It's a couple days ago, but yeah, I saw it on Dylan's Twitter because he had retweeted it. But I did not watch the Hall of Fame game last night. I'm sorry, so we can't talk about it.
Well, I watched every play. I'd like to really break it down. I didn't.
I saw Jeffrey had the under. First day back, probably not a lot of points being scored. I think I get the under.
Yeah, there are a few people who love gambling on football. It's not just football. He loves football, but there are a few people who love gambling on football more than Mr.
Yeah,
Wright.
There's a distinction there. Those are not the same thing.
He loves the sport, but he loves gambling on the sport more than he loves the sport itself. My opinion.
We talk a lot about newspaper and print being dead. The Tennessean in Nashville with a pretty good example of that last night. So they had an upset in their mayoral race in Nashville. Results were known around 8 p.m. last night, 8 o'clock. Their front page has first day back. West Elementary welcomes back students with a picture of kids walking down the hall. And at the very top, above the masthead, it says election results in Nashville came in past deadline for the print edition. Go to Tennessean.com or our mobile app for the latest on the city's campaign for mayor and metro council and find full coverage in Saturday's newspaper.
Ridiculous.
8 o'clock for the mayor race.
Ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, never been happier looking back. The whole when bad things happen, you think it's the end of the world, and sometimes it is.
Sometimes it's a life raft.
Sometimes it's not. So thankful WNSP fired me.
We saw somebody post yesterday that Mobile has a paper 3 days a week.
Yeah. But it's a shell.
2000, 3? That thing was huge. Is that
before that?
Was that kind of heyday?
99 through. I'll give you an example. Of how that money just was flowing. Okay. So I'm covering Auburn in 99. It was, I guess it was Tuberville's first year, and so they went 5-6. They didn't go to a bowl game, and so they sent me to Fort Worth because the GMAC Bowl or whatever the hell they called it at first, the Mobile, Alabama Bowl, whatever it's called. They sent me to Fort Worth and to do a bunch of tab stuff, and so I go to Fort Worth and Dennis Franchione and LaDainian Tomlinson and that crew was there, and I did 8 gazillion stories. I was probably there 3 nights. Got back to Mobile, and T. Martin was the quarterback at Tennessee, and they were playing in the Fiesta Bowl. And this was so all the calendar was turning from 1999 to 2000, and there was all the freak out about the end of the world and computers were going to die and everything. And so they wanted me to go cover T. Martin's last game and do a big T. Martin story and stuff, and then go ahead and cover the Fiesta Bowl. And so I told them when we looked at it with flights and stuff, it's like, hey, I got to leave on like the 27th to even get out there because of flights. That's cool. Go. So I flew out there on like the 27th, didn't come back till January the 2nd. Spent a week in Phoenix to do a story on T. Martin and to
cover a game that nobody in your circulation area cared about.
To write a Tennessee-Nebraska Fiesta Bowl game story. They didn't care. It's money, whatever. It wasn't much longer after that. 3 or 4 years. I went to. I'm going to get
Green Bay thing.
Well, I did that too, but I did the I can't remember the exact chronology. Alabama was in the NCAA tournament, and they made it to the Elite Eight. But I was already out. I can't remember where they played the first round, but I went to They wanted me to do some spring training stuff too, and they're like, just stay out there for Alabama, and when they get done, finish your spring stuff. I bet I was in Arizona for 8 days, just riding. They didn't care. Money. I mean, no longer that way now. At all.
From a standpoint of the SEC, relatively not the worst schedule as far as top 25 teams and opponents. Teams on Ole Miss's schedule that are in the preseason top 25, which means nothing, but nonetheless, we'll kill a minute with it. Alabama number 2, LSU number 6, A&M number 11, Auburn number 16, and then Mississippi State is receiving the third most votes, and Memphis is receiving the 12th most votes. So
it's a tough schedule. Missouri not in there?
Missouri not in there that I'm noticing, no.
Chris pretty high Missouri too.
Was he?
Yeah.
You feel good about that?
Yeah, I think they're a good team. Now they've got to do this whole they're ineligible for. You know what? They can't be ranked because they're not eligible to be voted on.
That means you can't even be ranked?
In that USA Today thing.
Really?
They can't. Yeah, because it's a coach's deal.
Whatever.
Whatever. It's insane.
Okay.
Cheer for them to shove it up everybody's rears.
We knew Clemson was going to be 1 or 2. Bama was going to be 1 or 2. We knew Georgia was going to be 3. Oklahoma at 4. Ohio State at 5. LSU 6. Michigan 7. Florida 8. Notre Dame 9. Texas 10.
Michigan and Florida too high. Texas is always too high. We do this every year.
Notre Dame's good, but they're not going to actually compete for the title.
Where's Utah?
Utah is at 15.
Yeah, they're everybody's kind of sleeper pick.
Huge opening weekend game. The Oregon Ducks are at 13. They got Auburn in week 1.
What time's that game?
I can tell you. Hold on. You're interested in that one.
Yeah, dialed in.
That's the one you like. It is at 6:30 p.m.
I know what I'm doing. I wonder what the Cubs do that day.
Oh, good grief. It's one baseball game. Good God.
Got multiple televisions.
It's not 2016. Stop.
No, it's not. It's not even close.
Yeah, that's not that deal. Week 1, if you're curious, hold on a second. We got nothing
Cubs
else.
played Milwaukee that day at 1:20 in the afternoon.
1:20?
1:20.
Well, I mean, you'll be occupied still at that point. So
I will miss that one.
All right, SEC in week 1, just for anybody who gives a crap. Let's see, Central Time. Okay, Miami is playing Florida and Orlando at 6 o'clock on Saturday. They're all. Oh no, that's on August 24th.
That's a week early.
Yeah, that's a week early. Sorry, Florida, Miami on August 24th, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Texas A&M is opening against Texas State on Thursday night. Okay, great. Good for them. And then on Saturday, your SEC schedule is Toledo at Kentucky at 11 a.m., Ole Miss at Memphis at 11 a.m., Mississippi State is playing the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Whoa. Louisiana Lafayette.
Louisiana Lafayette, yes. ULL.
Thank you.
ULL Cajuns, Mississippi State, Mercedes-Benz Superdome, 11 a.m. South Carolina against North Carolina at 2:30. That is in Charlotte. That is on ESPN. Phil Longo versus the Gamecocks.
Okay.
Georgia State is playing Tennessee. Jeremy Pruitt's going to get a W. Duke is playing Alabama on ABC in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. No, sorry, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I apologize. Those two games can't both be in New Orleans. Let's see. Portland State, Arkansas, Oregon, Auburn, 6:30. Georgia Southern, LSU. Missouri, Wyoming. Missouri is at Wyoming at 6:30. And then Georgia plays Vanderbilt at 6:30 on SEC Network in Nashville.
Yeah, Auburn, Oregon will have my attention.
I'm interested in the 2:30 South Carolina, North Carolina game simply because of the whole Phil Longo, Jay Bateman thing.
Yeah, I'll watch that too. I'm
interested in that.
Written all over it.
And then, yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in Alabama Duke.
No.
But then I'll be up for I'm up for Auburn, Oregon, and then I want to see just how bad Vanderbilt is. I know they're bad, but let's see how bad.
Yeah. You've about got my schedule down that day too.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, that just about nails it.
The game that you will not catch me even watching for a second on ESPN3 is Toledo at Kentucky.
Oh, hell no.
You can get in as low as $17, by the way.
I'm sure you can.
Here's an interesting note. Out of all the opening day games, Ole Miss Memphis the third hardest ticket in the SEC.
Probably the hardest press box seat too.
Yes, no doubt about that. $60 is the lowest ticket for the Ole Miss Memphis game.
Really? Yeah, it'll be full. It'll be.
Missouri Wyoming is 69, and then this is because Georgia's taking over that son of a gun. Lowest ticket for Vanderbilt, 103.
Yeah, Georgia's literally. This is going to sound hyperbolic, but you will be able to support me here. Georgia's taking 28 to 32,000 people to that game.
Yes. That stadium will be 80% or more Bulldogs.
Yes.
That's why it's the hardest ticket, because Georgia's killing the secondary market.
And it's a small stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the deal there. So anyway, thanks to Chris. Check him out again on the Beer Garden if you have not already done so. Plenty of other podcasts up. Soft Verbal went up last night, and the rest of our network has had episodes this week as well. So check those out. Check rebelgrove.com for more football content, and we'll have more to that today and moving forward. And we'll talk to you again on Monday.